In this tutorial, I'm going to remove the guesswork when it comes to shoulder length, longer men's hair. This look will be created using disconnected layers and a wavy blow dry to create a cool, undone finish. Before any haircut, it's important to assess the fix factors. In this scenario, I'm working with balanced hairlines and a hair type that's fine in density and has been sensitized with hair color. I'm going to start by preparing the hair with shampoo and conditioner at the basin. Next, I'm going to detangle the hair with a wide tooth comb. It's important to use a wide tooth comb as the hair is in a vulnerable state once it's been shampooed. The wide teeth reduce the stress load on the hair, preventing it from stretching and breaking. While I'm combing through the hair, I'm also assessing the head shape and cutting surface. For the most part, I'm assessing where the widest points of the head are located. This will help guide my decision making when it comes to zone selection and cutting method. A really simple way to think about long hair is to decide what lengths, shapes and techniques you're going to use above and below the widest points of the head. I'm going to demonstrate that throughout this tutorial. First off, I'm going to divide the head directly down the center, separating side from side. Next, I'm going to divide the back from front. I'm doing this by locating the highest point of the head and continuing the zone to just behind the ear where the hairline starts to change. Next, I'm locating the widest point of the side of the head, which is the contour, and creating a section line roughly a comb's width above this point. This is the first example of assessing what's happening above and below the widest point of the head. It's important for me to make sure I have enough hair below the widest point of the head to ensure I retain enough density throughout the perimeter shape. I'm going to repeat on the other side and secure the top section away with a clip. Moving on now, I'm going to locate the widest point of the back of the head. One key difference here is that it's lower than the widest points on the side of the head. This means that I have to adapt my zone selection to flow with the head shape. Much like the sides, it's important for me to retain density throughout the perimeter shape, so I've opted for a round shape throughout the crown area. This does two things. It allows me to reduce density above the widest point of the head and ensure I retain density over the earline. The earline is one of the most troublesome fix factors when it comes to long hair. We often see stylists struggling with this area as the length can become uneven if there isn't enough density left throughout the exterior. This is because of the shape of the hairline and ineffective zone selection. Now that my zone selection is complete, I'm going to start the haircut. I'm choosing to start this haircut towards the front of the head, as I discovered throughout the consultation that the length at the front was preferred length, but the back was elongated a little bit too much. I'm using the front hairline as a guideline for the whole perimeter shape and cutting a square line. To begin, I'm going to divide this side panel into two and cut the line with a feather razor. I chose a feather razor because I wanted an accurate but disheveled finish on the ends. You'll also notice I'm using the back of the razor to push the hair in towards the scalp over the earline. This is again to ensure that I have enough density around the earline and don't create inconsistencies. Tension will create an inconsistency here due to the shape of the hairline over the ear and its tendency to shrink once it's dry in this area. Repeat on the other side. Once I'm happy with the overall balance in the side panels, I'm going to repeat this process throughout the zone in the back by splitting it into 3 sections and creating a line using the length from the sides as a guide. Now that's the perimeter shape complete. Now all I have to focus on is everything above the widest points of the head, which is where my disconnected layers are going to come into play. Before I make any final decisions, I need to choose a desired length for my layers. I'm doing this by taking a small piece of hair from the internalmost point of the head and seeing where the final length would be best suited. In this instance, I want the layers to fall within the bottom third of the overall length, so as it retains density throughout the look but also adds a small amount of movement to the overall shape. There is another reason why I chose to use a round zone in the crown area of this haircut. The shape of this zone is going to be square vertically and round horizontally. I'm going to use diagonal sections throughout this zone which will pivot around the head, reminding me to keep adjusting my body position to ensure accuracy and balance. This will also minimize any excess density building up behind the ears near the mastoid bone. To start, I'm going to set my initial guideline by creating a section roughly the width of my comb directly in the center of this zone. I'm going to elevate this section 180 degrees towards the ceiling to ensure a seamless blend into the exterior shape. This means that the hairs closest to the occipital bone are over-directed upwards. This is what allows me to use disconnection effectively and reduce excessive density build-up around the widest points of the head. Once I'm happy with the length of my initial guideline, I will cut one side of this zone at a time using pivoting sections, which will help to keep the horizontal shape round. It's paramount that I am mindful of my body position here, taking a small step towards each new section. The diagonal lines of each new section will always tell you which direction you need to step in. On my right hand side, it's a small step forward, and on my left hand side, it's a small step backwards. I'm choosing to use a point cutting technique to cut my line, as this hair type is fine in density, and I want to reduce scissor lines as much as possible. Once I've reached the end of this side, I'm going to repeat on the other side, keeping my cutting mechanics in mind at all times. That's the layering complete throughout the zones at the back. It's now time to move on to the top. For accuracy reasons, I'm going to separate the top zone into 2 and cut one side at a time using a small piece of hair from the previously cut zone as a guide. I'm choosing to cut these sections standing at the back of the head, as I feel it's more important for me to be able to see the shape on the horizontal axis more so than the vertical axis. It also allows me to over-direct the hair as required. I want this zone to be triangular vertically and square horizontally. Much like the previous zones, these sections are going to be elevated 180 degrees and cut using a point cutting technique for a softer finish. Each new section is going to be over-directed to the previous to ensure I'm creating a shallow, triangular shape towards the front hairline. I'm going to repeat this process until I reach the front hairline. For my last section here at the hairline, I'm going to overdirect the hair back towards me to ensure I leave enough density around the face, as the hairline around the front is a delicate area and can become sparse quite quickly. Once I'm happy with the overall shape and length of this side, I'm going to repeat the process on the other side. As with all great haircuts, it's important to cross-check each zone for balance. Once I'm happy with the zones above the widest points of the head, I'm going to refine the perimeter shape and ensure there isn't any excess length overhanging from the layering. This is a good sign if this happens, as it means I will have a seamless transition between my line and layers due to the elevation and over-direction of the layering. Moving into the final stages of the haircut now, I'm going to add some extra texture and movement to the look by slice cutting each zone. For this technique, I've divided the hair up into 4 quadrants. Starting in the back panels, I'm going to be working from the internalmost point to the externalmost point. This is because when dealing with most humans' head shapes, most of the density usually resides internally. So it's important for me to balance out these areas first before moving into the more delicate hairline areas. I'm using a slicing scissor here to cut purposeful channels running along the hair shaft. In this instance, I'm using this technique to add more movement and texture to this fine, straight hair type. You can see here I'm working towards the end third of the overall length of the hair to ensure I don't remove excessive density. I'm going to repeat this process on all quadrants of the head, being sure to clip away each cut section. This keeps the process very organized and ensures I do not overcut any given section of hair. Now that the wet cutting is complete, it's time to move on to the styling. I'm choosing to use a sea salt spray throughout the roots and mid-lengths of this look to give the hair hold and texture. To start this process, I'm going to use my Dyson Supersonic with the gentle air attachment to rough dry the roots in the direction that I want them to live. It's important to direct the roots in the direction that you want the hair to be styled in, as all movement and volume generally comes from the root area. If the roots are dried in the wrong direction, the hair is not going to sit in the direction that you want it to. Once the hair is roughly 60% dry, I'm going to go back through and section the look ready for round brush drying. I'm choosing to create zones throughout the haircut as it keeps the drying process organized and efficient. I've created a zone on top of the head above the widest points. I'm leaving the side panels as they are due to the finer density of this hair type. I'm dividing the back into 2 using a deep V shape to mimic the density and flow of the head shape. I've switched to a medium round brush now, which is relative to the length of the hair and the type of finish that I want to create. Starting with the zones at the back of the head, I'm taking vertical sections roughly the width of my brush. I'm still using a medium speed and a medium heat for maximum control over the hair, but I've switched to the concentrator attachment for better airflow control. I'm starting at the root area of each section using the barrel of the brush to smooth out the hair shaft. As I stretch the hair out, after every few inches, I'm going to twist the hair with a brush and carry on the process. I'm going to put in as many twists as needed to create the desired look, but as I approach the ends, I'm going to smooth out the hair for a straighter and more disheveled look. One thing to remember here is the direction of the twists on either side of the head. I'm generally aiming for each twist to move away from the face. This allows the wave to fall in a much more flattering manner. I'm going to continue this process, moving through the zones, gradually working my way up the head. I'm being mindful not to interrupt the sections of hair I have already dried, as it's paramount they have adequate cooling time. Once I reach the zone in the top of the head, I'm going to be drying each section in a directional fashion to suit the desired outcome of this look. In this instance, all of these sections are being dried over to one side. I'm using overdirection in the root area here to create more volume throughout this section in the front. Once all sections have been dried, I will let the hair sit for a few moments to ensure that it has cooled down. After a few moments of cooling, it's time to make the magic happen. Putting the finishing touches on a look like this is quite straightforward, as the blow drying and styling has put in all the work for us. Starting at the back, I'm going to get my model to tip his head back, and using my hand like a rake, I'm going to shake out the sections and release the wavy texture. I'll repeat this process throughout the front and place the hair as desired. Thanks for watching.